What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes. And in this video I'm going to be reviewing the banner and the units from this year's Halloween banner, which features Xane, Female Grima, Dheginsea, and also Harmonic Tiki in their Halloween alts. So in this video I'm just going to be giving guys an in-depth analysis as well as builds for them. So with that said, let us begin and I hope you guys do enjoy. Xane is an infantry colorless mage, and that is pretty unique in itself because colorless mages are a new concept and we don't really have too many of them in the game. Xane is by far the star of this banner, even though he's a 4-star focus unit. The reason being is that he is just such a unique and new concept that we have seen in this game, and it's not like this kind of new and fresh concept is locked behind a very restrictive paywall. He is a seasonal unit, yes, but he is a 4-star focus unit. On average, you need 50 orbs to get at least one copy of him as a 4-star unit, and that is just pretty amazing because he doesn't need like plus 10 merge to reach his max potential like pretty much every unit present in the game. He can work as an unmerged unit, and even just plus 1 merge is going to be more than enough for him to function at his max potential, mainly because his max potential depends on the allies that you run with him. That's right, so Joker's Wild is a really unique weapon giving him plus 5 HP. He basically copies stats from allies within 2 spaces. His attack speed, defense, and resistance respectively are calculated based on the allies within 2 spaces who have got the highest in those stats. So for example, if you have an ally with like 70 attack and then an ally with 70 defense, he's going to be combining both of those stats and having 70 attack and 70 defense himself, which is just really amazing and opens up for so many possibilities. Is he the most broken unit in the game? No, absolutely not. He has his limitations, but is he fun? Absolutely, and the fun part comes from his weapon. So his HP is the only thing that matters to him. All of his other stats are pretty much irrelevant. I guess in a sense, resistance could be something that is going to be important because you're going to be facing off mages with AoE specials, especially in something like Ether Raids. So that is going to be calculating off of his visible resistance, but as far as most of the things goes, his HP is the only stat which matters to him. All of the other stats he can copy from his allies. Xane only copies the visible stats of the allies, so you want to make sure that he runs stuff like Life and Death, Fortress, Defense, Res, and all of those skills which can increase the visible stats of his ally so that he can get the most mileage out of this. And then you could run more skills on Xane. So on top of the copied stats, you want to use skills which have in combat buff to Xane. You don't want to increase his visible stats whatsoever. So something like Fury isn't really all that ideal. And Attack Risk form definitely works out, which he has got in his base kit. So you just want to copy the visible stats of the allies and then run skills which can increase Xane's stats during the combat. So plus HP IV is actually the most optimal IV for him. Unless you want to use him in arena, then in that case plus defense super boon is going to be required to reach 170 BST. Like, I'm definitely going to be trying to go for him, and most people are going to be trying as well because he's a 4-star focus unit. It doesn't really take much to just pull 1 copy of him, and 1 copy of him is all you need. So you could get really creative with his allies and just increase his stats by a lot. And just the novelty of him is going to be really attractive to most players because this is just such a breath of fresh air. And the potential he has got with a weapon like this definitely makes him really flexible, versatile, and really fun. So Xane is not really a broken unit, but a lot of people are just really hyped to see a very unique unit like him. And I just want to showcase how this could work. So as I said, he copies the stats from allies within 2 spaces, and this means that he could have 2 allies with just really high stats, one excelling in offense and then the other one excelling in defense. This is just a budget example. Now, I don't really know what kind of units each of you have, so this is just an example, an outline of how his weapon can work. So here we have got Raven, just plus 1 merge, pretty budget. He has got his Basilico's Weapon Refine, which gives him Life and Death. I'm running Life and Death again to increase his attack and speed. And then we have got the unit that we have got from this batch, Enna, and she can be a pretty nice budget option because she's not an armor unit. You could of course use Sheena with like Fortress, Defense, Res, but moving around Sheena is going to be really annoying, and it is not going to be that annoying with Enna. So she could just be at plus 1 merge, just run Fortress, Defense, Res, and she can just provide so much bulk. So Xane copies their highest stats, which is going to be attack and speed from Raven, defense and resistance from Enna, and he ends up with a stat spread like this. Now, what kind of mage at +1 merge can have this kind of stats in this game? there are not a lot of units, and the investment with Raven and Enna is also not something too astronomical, and this could even be done on budget, as you could see. Another example, here we've got Brave Edelgard, one of the most popular units in the entire game. She gives fantastic attack, defense, and resistance, and you just want to run someone who's extremely fast. Layla being an example, this could of course be any kind of unit, so you can end up with extremely high attack stat, extremely high speed, and pretty amazing defense and resistance. And you could absolutely use him with even a single support ally, and that is by far gonna be male Corrin because of his Yato Refine. Now keep in mind, you will need to have max investment on this kind of Corrin if you just want to use a single support unit, and this kind of thing could be used in ether raids. However, male Corrin is gonna get hit by all kinds of chills and debuffs, which is gonna be quite a bit annoying for Xane because he's just gonna be copying stats from Corrin. So if Corrin is getting debuffed, then Xane is copying those debuff stats. So if you have this kind of Corrin, if you run Defense Res Link, which is really good because those are visible stats, so Xane will copy the visible stats of the allies. So after he copies Corrin's stats and gets support from him, he can end up with ridiculous stats, and that is just with one support ally. So even a single support ally like this can definitely help Xane a lot. This is of course really like max investment, but you get the idea. And Xane is especially the kind of unit which really depends on his allies. So I hope this can definitely give a bit of idea of how you wanna run a team around Xane. And even if you've got like units with really high stats with high investment, Xane could be just fit onto that kind of team and just copy the highest stats of the allies. And now we can move on to the builds and the skills you wanna run on him. Now even though these are builds, the singular skills from each set can also be really amazing on Xane, and you could just mix and match whatever you want to do, whichever is more comfortable and affordable for you. If you just want to run a cheap Xane, then attack res form, is decent, and for slot B doesn't have too many options. You could run renewal, or you could run guard, vantage, all of those are options as well. And stuff like Fury, as I said, isn't really all that ideal for Xane, and we don't really have too many good mixed phase options, sadly, on budget. So you could definitely go with something like this, run a solo skill or run a stand skill and a sacred seal. And solo skills are also pretty good because they are dual phase, so he could just be really nice in player phase and also tank in the enemy phase. So this could help, and lull attack speed is definitely pretty amazing for him because he's the type of unit who can function at both phases. So lull attack can increase his tankiness, and lull speed just allows him to double more. And if you're serious about investing into Xane, then I would say that close counter is by far the best skill for him in slot A. He is one of the best units in general in the entire game for close counter because, as you saw, the bulk that he can reach with his allies is absolutely ridiculous for a range unit and for a mage, and a colorless mage at that. Now, you can also use stuff like Special Spiral and just combine it with a 3-turn special like Soul, so he can always retaliate back with Soul, have pretty nice longevity, and with the allies that you run with him, he can be extremely bulky, and he can just end turn and just take out enemies left and right and also have the health for it. And a stand skill and Sacred Seal is also a pretty nice option. Attack speed push 4 and push skills in general are dual phase, so again that's a good option for him, and because he can get ridiculously fast with his allies, null follow up is also a pretty good option because we have got so many units in this game with cheating skills that can just allow them follow-ups or stop your follow-ups, so that is an incredible option for him. And if you want to use him in arena, even though it's not the most ideal to get merges on him, then you could run a build like this. Infantry Hexblade is actually pretty amazing in arena because you could just hit units like Ledger and Crom on their weaker stat, which is their resistance with their other allies, so you definitely want to run that. And you want to go with plus defense IV because that's a super boon, and sadly that is not the most optimal, but if you want to reach 170 BST for arena, then this is something that you have to do. Sadly, I really wish it was HP. But you want to run this, and you could have Blue Flame. Close counter is amazing. Null follow-up can stop all of those fighter skills, and he can actually be a pretty strong unit depending on what kind of allies you run. Now, if you have some kind of fast ally, that is definitely preferable in your arena core because Xane definitely needs that kind of speed so that he can actually face against units like Legendary Alm and Legendary Celica, who are incredibly fast. And of course, if you're running some kind of armor unit, that is going to be giving him a lot of bulk. Now, if you want to use him in Ether raids, then I would say that Light Season is probably better for him than Astro Season. The reason being is that the mythics are pretty amazing for his support. Now, you could of course run the single ally support with male Corrin, as I showed before. That is an option, but you're going to be soaking up a lot of shrines just on a single unit. And that is going to be the case here as well, but if people have built up these mythics, then you could definitely use Xane to get the support out of them. Mila is amazing for increasing the bulk of Xane, and this is just a +1 merge Mila with Fortress Defense Res. And by running Summoner support on her, you're not only going to be increasing her defense, which means that she can isolate more dancers, but she can also provide more stats to Xane. So Summoner support on the ally units that you want to copy the stats from is actually a pretty good strategy with Xane. And AR can basically just increase offensive stats of Xane, and because she can have Disarm Trap, that is definitely really valuable, because if there are some kinds of dark shrines and bright shrines that you could snipe off with the help of AR and like a dancer, that is much more preferable, because Mila and AR are both going to be getting hit by the shrine structures if they are present on the map. And he can have a pretty decent stat spread. You definitely want to run Null Follow-Up to deal with Bramimond. Now, there's a common misconception that Bramimond's Slutsy skill Impenetrable Dark can stop Xane from copying the stats of his allies, which is actually not true, because Bramimond cannot stop the skills of that unit themselves. Joker's Wild is his own skill, which he uses to copy the stats from his allies. So yeah, Bramimond is not going to be stopping you, and if anything, if you run Null Follow-Up, then you're going to be dunking on Bramimond. And Light Season is overall pretty comfy because AR can give resistance to Xane, and visible resistance is going to be mattering in the matchups where you're going to be facing AoE special mages. So there, the resistance boost from AR can actually help. And if you have +1 merges on your Mila and AR, then that is even better because they have more stats, and it just means more stats for Xane as well. But even on low merges, this could be done, as you could see. Female Grima in her Halloween alt is a flying green dragon with 172 BST, and she's an incredibly min-max unit with very high attack stat of 40 and really good mixed bulk. And she does have pretty low speed, which means that she's gonna get doubled by pretty much every kind of unit, but still, her bulk is really good. Her weapon is Moonless Breath, which is a 16 might weapon, which has got distant counter built into it, and if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, then she can heal up 30% of her HP when she triggers a special. So it's pretty similar to Brave Claude, but she can only recover 30% of her HP. If she's got the neutral HP IV, which puts her at 40 HP, then she can trigger a special and recover 12 HP every time. And triggering specials is made easier with her Slotty skill. Usually, flying dragons don't really have too many ways of charging up their special, but Dragon Scale changes that. So Dragon Scale just completely neutralizes her flying weakness, so bow units are not really a threat to her. And if the foe initiates combat, or if the foe is at full health, then she can inflict -6 attack and -6 resistance on them, and also get special cooldown charge +1 per foe's attack. So she can instantly retaliate back with Noontime, Glimmer, Moonbow, all of those 2-turn specials. So those are just gonna be ideal for her. And the in-combat debuff further adds to her bulk and power. Dragon's Ire is a new skill which she has got, and this is an amazing skill locked to only dragon units. Any kind of dragon, flying, armored, or infantry can have access to this skill, so that is really good. And this is really amazing for Grima because she can have a better quick riposte essentially, and this is basically half of Null Follow-Up, which is only active in the enemy phase, and that is going to be allowing her to bypass stuff like impact skills, which can usually be really annoying. Dragon's Ire is a really amazing skill for any kind of slow tanky dragon, and there is no way I can mention Dragon's Ire and also not mention Myr, because that would be a crime. It's insane how synergetic and how amazing Dragon's Ire is for Myr, and in my opinion, even though both Grima and Myr are green flying dragons, Myr is the better one with this kind of skill because she can appear in the revival banners, so it's easier to get merges on her anyways compared to Grima, who's gonna be a seasonal unit, and Great Flame's Weapon Refine is just absolutely amazing. So Dragon Ire combined with her Great Flame Weapon Refine can basically give her Null Follow-Up, which flying units do not have access to, and she pretty much gets an Omni Breaker effect as well. So it's really absurd how good this skill is for Myr. So for Grima, you have got super boons in attack and resistance. Attack super boon is going to be allowing for better one-shot potential, and resistance super boon is going to be allowing you to have better tanking if that's what you're going for. The problem which Grima faces, most of the dragons in this game also face, which is dragon effective weapons. They are everywhere. We have got Naga with Divine Fang, we have got Thracier, we have got Falchion users, we have got Cloud Mayugi in the Divine Codes. So any kind of dagger unit can have that. There are just so many dragon effective weapons everywhere that is just gonna be pretty annoying for a tank like Grima, especially who's green. So Falchion users and Red Dragon Slayers are gonna be having the weapons triangle advantage. And her builds are pretty straightforward. She already comes with a really amazing base kit. You could replace Lotzi with Attack Smoke. And for her special, you want to run something like Glimmer if you want to have more damage output. Noontime is better for healing, of course, but Glimmer is for the damage output. Moonbow is also an option, but I would say that it's not really all that good because Dragon Skill reduces the resistance of your foe, and Moonbow is going to be working off of the resistance of the foe. So it's not ideal reducing the resistance and then using a special which depends on that. So Glimmer is, in my opinion, pretty decent if you don't want to run Noontime. And if you want to invest more into her, then I would definitely recommend Attack Res Rain to be run on her Slotsy. It combines really well with Dragon Scale to essentially put -10 attack and resistance debuff on the foe, which is just really insane with already such a min-max units. So Attack Res Rain is definitely one skill which you want to run if you want to invest more into female Grima. Halloween Tiki is a flying blue dragon with Ninian by her side, which makes her a harmonized hero, and she does have harmonized skill as well. Tiki's weapon is Frostfire Breath, which is essentially a 19 might weapon, and it gives her effective damage against dragons. So that is really amazing for stuff like Arena Assault, where you could just pop dragons with her insane offensive capabilities. And if any kind of bonus is present on her, she gets +6 attack and speed during the combat, and she also multiplies the bonuses present to her defense and resistance by 1.5 and then adding it to her attack stat. So with everyone, it's really amazing with this kind of weapon, and it's really synergetic, so it can activate the primary effect and can give her more attack stat because with everyone is going to be giving you 10 buffs basically. So that is going to be making it so that Tiki is going to be getting additional 15 attack with that skill. So Frostfire Breath is going to be giving insane amount of offensive potential to Tiki, who already has absurdly strong attack of base 39 and extremely fast speed of base 42. So she's basically one of those rare player phase dragon units that we have got in this game. She's not really meant to tank like many of the other dragons. Instead, she's meant to go in player phase and nuke threats with her extremely high offensive capabilities. Harmonized skill which she has got is also a really interesting one. So it has got the Resonant Blade effect, which can just give extra attack and speed to her and also the allies from the same titles. So basically an ally within 2 spaces who has got the highest HP and who has already acted can be refreshed, and this can even apply to dancers like Ninian, the normal version, and also Nils. It's just that the restriction is going to be only to the titles that both of these are from, so not any kind of unit can get danced by this harmonized skill. This is of course going to be really useful in Resonant Battles, and Tiki is pretty useful in Resonant Battles for increasing your score. Tiki does have the dual weakness of a flying unit and also of a dragon, but for Tiki, she's not really meant to tank like many of the other dragons, as I said. So it's not really that big of a detriment, I feel like, but still being a dragon means that she doesn't have access to Gale Force, which really sucks because she would love to have Gale Force. And her builds are pretty straightforward for her role. So you could replace Aerobatics with Desperation and just make her a player phase unit and have Heavy Blade and Glimmer. Glimmer is a really good special with her because she can just have such a high attack stat, and with Heavy Blade she can trigger Glimmer when she's in the Desperation range. Something like second build could be done because she does buff the defense, resistance, and speed from her base kit. So if you just run Attack Tactic, then that could be pretty useful in something like Arena Assault where you're buffing allies, and then Tiki can just nuke the opposing dragons and stuff like that. Now keep in mind, dragons can have access to Dive Bomb from Pirate Tibarn, so that is of course going to be an option if you want to invest heavily into your Tiki, and you could also inherit Heavy Blade 4 and make use of that. Again, Gale Force would absolutely be perfect here, but for whatever reasons, dragons cannot have Gale Force, so she's stuck here with Glimmer, so at least she can trigger that on her second hit. And Dive Bomb is definitely a pretty good skill that she could run for her role. Dheginsea has came into Fae in a very unexpected way as a Halloween alt. So he's a 184 BST armor red dragon. and he doesn't really have any kind of preferred weapon or preferred skill, which is just so baffling to me because he's such a powerful character canonically, but he just comes with an inheritable weapon. So he's a big ball of stats essentially, and that is not the greatest thing. I mean, sure, he can be a really good dragon, and he's probably one of the most min-max units in the entire game, but being a big ball of stats is not always the best thing. If I compare him to someone like Brave Hector, who has got 10 less BST than him, Brave Hector is still the better unit because of his insane weapon refine and the effects that he could enjoy out of it. So he can be a better unit than Dheginsea, who has got more BST and who is more min-max than Brave Hector. So again, big ball of stats, definitely a very powerful unit, but it's not everything in world. Blackfire Breath is also something that is kind of annoying with an armor unit because it basically requires him to be away from his ally, and that is pretty inconvenient for something like Dheginsea because he does not have access to Armored Stride. Armored Dragons cannot have access to that skill, so it becomes really annoying for him to be away from his allies or use any kind of movement skill like Armor March, because for Armor March to be activated, you have to be beside an ally, and then if you want to tank with him, then you want to put him away from his allies. So next turn, he's not going to be having access to Armor March movement. So this breath is definitely pretty annoying, and something like Lightning Breath or Pale Breath from Enna is going to be much more preferable. But in any case, Blackfire Breath is something that you could use on other dragons as well if you want to fodder him for that, because it inflicts -5 attack and resistance debuff on the foe during the combat, and it also neutralizes their bonuses on their attack and resistance. So that is definitely pretty amazing. It's just that it's not the best breath for Dheginsea and it can be pretty annoying. Slick Fighter is a new fighter skill which is basically a better quick riposte, and it has got debuff negation. Debuff negation is definitely a pretty amazing thing for armor units because they are a big ball of stats. They're going to be attracting a lot of shield skills, a lot of shrine structures and stuff like that. So this is definitely a pretty amazing fighter skill for a lot of armor units, and especially in something like Aetherids. If you use an armor unit, then Slick Fighter is going to be useful there. And just in general, there's just so many debuffs present in the metagame. Dheginsea has insanely high attack stat of 45, and he also has really good bulk with a super boon in resistance. So if you want to invest more into him, then resistance super boon can definitely be pretty amazing for the tanky role. But if you just want to increase the one-shot potential and increase his power, then attack boon is something that you could go with as well. The dual weakness of a dragon unit as well as an armor unit is going to be so annoying for Dheginsea, because dragon effective weapons and armor effective weapons are just so common everywhere, so he's going to be fighting against a lot of effective damage dealers. For his builds, the budget build is just going to be involving his default weapon and just running something like attack smoke and running close defense and just bonfire, pretty basic stuff. If you want to invest slightly more into him, then you want to spend 20,000 feathers and give him lightning breath, and that is going to be the ideal weapon for him on relative budget. He does come with a stance 3 skill, so that is really amazing with lightning breath, and Slick Fighter is also really amazing. And he could run Armor March because now he can actually be beside his allies compared to Blackfire Breath. And Enna's Pale Breath is also a fantastic option for his weapon if you don't want to run Lightning Breath. And Special Fighter combined with Quick Riposte is always going to be a really strong option for any kind of armor unit. And this encounter, of course, is going to be making full use of his tanking capabilities. You could also run Bolt Fighter with Quick Riposte to make him a mixed phase unit, and if you're a very dedicated Dheginsea fan and if you want to go with the plus and merge, then of course you could use him in Arena because he is going to be a 185 BST armored dragon, and that is pretty good for scoring, but not so good for gameplay aspect because he has got the dual weakness of an armor unit as well as a dragon, so stuff like Legendary Chrom, Legendary Tiki, Legendary Julia, Legendary Marth, Roy are all just going to be so annoying for him with all of that effective damage. So it can be really annoying to use him in Arena, and because he doesn't come with a preferred weapon, you will have to run a 300 SP Slotsy skill for the max Arena scoring. So that is going to be my review of this banner. Overall, this banner isn't really a must to pull on unless you're trying to get Xane, who's definitely the star of this banner in my opinion. Mainly because like dragon units don't really have it easy in this metagame with such a widespread presence of dragon effective weapons, but this banner definitely brings some new toys for dragon users and people who love to build dragon units, so that's definitely something. And these dragon units are definitely pretty strong, but they're not really something to must have for most players. Like Harmonic Tiki is not going to be that important unless you really care about ranking in resonant battles. I really wish Forging Bonds was there with this banner so that we could get more chances of getting Xane. So if you're not really going to be pulling on this banner, then at least from your free summon, try to go for the colorless stone. And because he's a 4-star focus unit, it's not really going to be taking too much most of the time for getting him. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Make sure to share this video with your friends who are looking forward to building any of these units from this banner. And I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously. And also be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as slow as Dheginsea. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.